Hello everyone and welcome to this week of First and 10. I am joined, of course, as always, with the peanut butter to my jelly for the this week of First and 10. As always, Matt Etchier. Matt, it was a pretty interesting week in the game of football this past week. Maybe not super as exciting in a lot of the marquee matchups. Most games didn't go down to the wire as a couple past weeks have, but I think there's some pretty interesting matchups.
Oh God, yeah.
Pittsburgh got it done with the old man, Charlie Batch, who wept in Ben Roethlisberger's arms after getting the victory.
He did.
Maybe he should lose his NFL player card. I know that victory didn't mean a lot to him, but really we're going to weep over a regular season victory. Sure, it's over the Ravens, your rival, but really, I mean, you've won before, Charlie Batch. Come on, son, you can't be crying on no field. So we had that. A lot of teams, I guess, that we didn't expect to win definitely did. One of those, of course, being the Kansas City Chiefs after they had gone through one of the most crazy stories that had happened, I think definitely in all of sports for this year, as the whole Jevon Belcher situation, and I guess all of you have probably heard about it, but if you haven't heard about it, basically the story is he murdered his girlfriend, and I heard from you, actually, you were the one that enlightened me on this, that her mother was in the room.
His mother.
His mother saw the whole incident.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And then he went to Arrowhead Stadium and went and talked to the general manager, Scott Pololi, and their head coach, Romeo Cornell, and another player that was not named and probably doesn't need to be named, and thanked all three of them for, really the opportunity to be a part of the Chiefs, and then killed himself in the parking lot, which he commits suicide, and it's a crazy thing. And not only did he commit suicide, but the general manager and coach saw him commit suicide in front of the police. So it's a crazy thing. I mean, my heart goes out to the Perkins and the Belcher families, because I mean that's just so much to deal with, and sure, they've been an on again off again couple, but I mean they're reeling, and I think the real situation here is there's a 3-month-old child that's never gonna know its parents because they're both dead now. And I guess a lot of people have speculated what caused this. Some people said steroids. Some people said it's a gun control issue in the States. I have my own theory. I guess what do you think of the whole situation? I mean, it's not the best way we wanted to start the show this week, but I felt we had to talk about it.
Definitely something that needs to be talked about. These sorts of things, like you can't really shy away from them. The awareness needs to be there, and I think Kansas City, they treated this situation, I mean, in the best situation you can. Obviously, you're never prepared for something like this. There's so many unanswered questions. A lot of people are like, well, should they have the game? Shouldn't they have had the game? I don't think there's a right answer there. I think, no matter what, it's a tough choice to do. They decided to have the game, but I think their decision to, before the game, to honor and to raise awareness for domestic violence was a very a good idea there. It's obviously an ongoing issue around the world, and definitely needs to do that. And that's all you can really do. When things like this happen, it really puts stuff into perspective, and it makes you look inwards and what you truly care about and that kind of thing. And I mean, a lot of the Kansas City Chiefs, you saw them hurting and stuff, but they showed true leadership, I think, with some of their press conferences and those sorts of things. It was like I said, I think they made. I don't even want to say the best of a bad situation, but like they did their best to get through it. And I mean, yeah, it's such a tragedy. But I mean, like I said, you can't shy away from these things. These things are a part of our world, and we need to somehow fix them.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Chiefs handled it well. I mean, obviously, if they didn't want to play the game, I mean, the Panthers getting a victory by forfeit, I don't think anyone would have complained. I mean, and they wanted to play the game. They felt it was the best way. I don't think anyone was going to deny them that right either. I mean, it was a team decision, and I think that, playing the game is actually, hindsight now being 2020, probably the best thing for them, because for what, especially for the coach, for seeing the incident, and then, he needed something to at least for, especially 24 hours after it happened, really to get his mind off the situation. And the team rallied so well around that. I mean, Brady Quinn, a guy that has had a lot of slack, had a lot of hype when he was drafted, and now he's in Cleveland, and, he's had some starts there, and he played awful. But last week, he looked like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. I mean, only like 3 incompletions, 2 straight touchdowns. So, I mean, fantastic for him. And I thought him at the press conference, like you said, he kind of summed up not just the situation, but the current society of the world very well. And I think it makes Brady Quinn come off as a real class act. So, the Chiefs rallied around that. And, I have my own theory. It's told me a concussion issue. It was a melting pot of depression for Belcher. I mean, you're on the worst team in the league. You're having issues with a girlfriend, and the trauma your head's going to take in the game of football. It continues to prove you need to look at concussions and keep with your protocols. And while we may hate certain penalties called to quarterbacks or players for headhunting, now we may see how beneficial it will be in the future for these athletes. But I don't want to go into too much more detail about it. It's a pretty serious issue, and I think we'll learn more about it in the coming days and weeks and months. And we'll just move on here, like the NFL's moving on, trying to bring up the mood here now. The Philadelphia Eagles, they made an interesting decision after this past week where, they didn't get the job done against Dallas, but their quarterback Nick Foles played very well. The turnovers that happened aren't his fault. They're running back who still really should hold on to that football. Let's be real, folks. And the Eagles have decided to name Nick Foles the starting quarterback moving forward. Are you okay with this move for the Philadelphia Eagles?
I am okay with it. It brings up the bigger question. So is Vic done in Philly? Where's Vic going? Kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Foles, I wouldn't say he necessarily has won this starting position, but what the Eagles are thinking about now is the future, and that's literally what's going on now. And so they're putting him in there, getting him some experience. I mean, and especially if you're the Eagles, you look at all these other rookie quarterbacks this season, you're like, well, you got a lot more confidence in your rookie quarterback now and his ability to learn and develop. So why not start it? The Eagles season, I think most people will agree, pretty much done. Time to start looking forward and see who you want on your team next year and who you don't.
Well, I think the interesting thing for me is the moves made by Andy Reid for thinking of the future for a guy that's not going to be there for the future anymore. I mean, this is probably, it's speculation, but I think we're 99.9% thinking the Eagles will release Andy Reid or fire him after this season. So it's a move. I'm kind of going to say that's a good move for him to make. I mean, he's not going to be there, but he's thinking of the future of a team that has meant so much to him. And I think Foles, with a full training camp and stuff like that. The Eagles also got to, work on some things, mainly their defense, which was supposed to be this most hyped, amazing thing in their secondary, has been pretty awful, actually. And, their halfbacks can't hang on to the football. As well, they've dealt with some injuries. I mean, they don't have McCoy, Deshaun Jackson, or anyone like that. So, healthy players and, some fix-ups and tightened-ups of certain situations. Eagles could be a threat again in the NFC East, which may make this guy not very happy because he's got enough drama to deal with in that division. But moving to the upcoming week of games here, of course, we start things on Thursday. And last Thursday was definitely the best matchup in terms of the two teams and what it meant.
For a while,
this Thursday, not so much. It does not mean as much for anyone. It's the Oakland Raiders hosting the Denver Broncos. And, it's a big divisional matchup and a big rivalry matchup in the division. But when the one team is 3-9 and the other's 9-3, and the way the Denver Broncos have been playing as of late, this one could be a slaughtering. Basically, the Broncos could take the Raiders out to the pasture and just put them out of their misery in this one. And I do see that happening because the Raiders haven't been playing that great football at home. Even last week at home, I mean, they're playing a team that doesn't score that often, that really just has one threat in Trent Richardson in Cleveland, and they lose the game, and they can't hold anything defensively. They also probably have one of the worst offensive lines in the league. So, as you can tell, clearly I'm taking Denver. They're just too much firepower right now. Peyton Manning's freaking amazing Peyton Manning of old. I don't know how anyone could not take Denver in this game.
And I'm surprised you haven't talked about, Peyton Manning getting whored out yet, which you usually do for these.
But he's had a break. Nobody's had a break. He can come back. He can get his action in. I'm okay with him now there. He's had like a good 7-week break. I'm okay with that. Before it was just like, this is Peyton Manning. Let's throw him back all around. You haven't seen him in a year, but here he is in every marquee matchup. Like, I didn't need that. I don't think a lot of the other teams some of them could have used some of that exposure, but hey, he gets a chance. And let's be real, it's Thursday night football. Not many people, some people in the States don't even have NFL networks. So, and if you miss this game, I don't think you're going to miss much, folks.
Fair enough.
I mean, there's other things on that you can watch.
I'm also going to take Denver for sure. Denver's won 7 straight. Raiders have lost 5 straight. I don't know. I think that kind of says it all there. Denver's rolling. They got their eyes set on the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're stopping. Holy crap. Everything, offense, defense, is rolling. It's all clicking. This Oakland Raiders team, I honestly thought was going to be a little bit better with Carson Palmer under center. As you said, I know they're having O-line problems, but I mean, still, when you have Hayward Bay back healthy and more, and you have McFadden as your running back, your offense should not be struggling like they are. Step it up a bit, Raiders. Maybe give us a good game on Thursday. I don't think you will. Prove me wrong, but I'm taking Denver.
Yeah, I mean, I think everyone in the football world will. I mean, these type of matchups, though, where you pick one team, the Raiders could step up more so than not. But the Raiders in prime time, when they opened the season on Monday, did not look that good at all until the fourth quarter. So they cannot have a start like that, especially against the way Denver's been rolling. But speaking of rolling, not just one team, but 3 teams in this division, the NFC East. I mean, that's a division that's rolling. I mean, it's gaining momentum, and the NFC East, as always, is delivering the goods as we get to the end of the season. I mean, by the time we've all sat down, had our hot cocoa, unwrapped our Christmas presents, we get a couple days, and then before you know it, it's really going to come down to that last week of the season there, where a lot of those teams are going to play each other. You have your Giants so far in control of the division with a slight lead here, being a 7-5 football team, kind of losing a heartbreaker. I would say a heartbreaker, but I don't know if that's maybe the right word, I guess, to the Redskins. And the Skins and Cowboys are both 6-6, with, of course, the one team obviously being finished is the Eagles. Who do you think's going to take this division? I mean, your boys got a real tough schedule going ahead, starting next week with the New Orleans.
Yeah, well, Giants are lucky. They still have that game in hand. The issue is their division record is the lowest of those 3 teams. And Redskins are rolling. I think they're on a 5-game winning streak, something like that. And anyway, they've been winning games recently really well. RG3, scary, like really scary. And Giants have a tough schedule ahead of them. They play Atlanta.
They play Atlanta after New Orleans, and then Baltimore.
Yeah, New Orleans and Baltimore, and then, I mean, they play Eagles last week, which, as much as the Eagles have been struggling, I mean, it's still a division game, who knows? Yeah. And then Dallas and Redskins play each other in the last week. I really think it's going down to the wire. I still got to give it to the Giants, just because typically they come through in December football, and I must say, they looked well against the Redskins in the first half. Redskins shouldn't have scored that touchdown. I think everyone saw that fumble. I don't know. I thought Giants defense was playing pretty well up until that point. I don't know what happened to them second half. But I still gotta say Giants, this is their division to lose, and until someone takes it from them, I can't go away from them.
I don't think the Giants lose the division. I think, if anything, they hang on by a thread. But it's not that I don't think any of these teams make the playoffs. I think one of these 2 teams that are left, whether it's Washington or Dallas, is a wild card team.
Really?
I really seriously I think, like, especially the way Washington is building that momentum up. I mean, they're looking really good and strong. RG3 is a quarterback. We all know he can run. He can scramble. He can make plays. but he also doesn't turn the ball over. Very low interception ratio, especially for a rookie quarterback, which is quite amazing. So they have that. Plus, they also get a lot of their other rookie, Alfred Morris, who's just been a beast in the own right in the backfield. So I'm really leaning to, Washington potentially as well being a playoff team. And Dallas, you never know. They had a big victory over the Eagles on Sunday night. And, they're up and down like a toilet seat mostly. But I think they can maybe close the lid as well on that wild card at some point in time. There, but I mean, those two play each other. It could be for a wild card spot. It all depends how much momentum the Seahawks have in the gas tank in the NFC as a whole. True. But I think your Giants definitely win that division. Right. Speaking of the Redskins, I know you'd enjoy. I mean, I would enjoy as well too. The Giants are a fun team to watch. But speaking of the Redskins, who are on the verge of the playoffs, they got a tough test in their own right this week. They host the Baltimore Ravens, and hosting the Baltimore Ravens this week, I don't know if that would be a fun task. Now, it's never really fun to play Baltimore, but after Baltimore blew a big lead against the rival in Pittsburgh with third-string Charlie Batch, they're going to be angry. And plus, they may have lost Terrell Suggs for this upcoming game. He tore his bicep, so that's going to be a loss there. It's going to be a lot of Ed Reed to step up, and a lot of the likes of Ed Reed and Bernard Pollard. I think they're going to be the ones that have to step up really defensively there to make sure the linebackers in the front four can get the big pressure here out there with RG3 and company. So I guess my question for you is, who are you taking in this football game?
Ravens are a lot like a Giants team. They have a pretty good run. I think their running game is probably better than the Giants game, actually, with Ray Rice there. But I mean, Flacco, not as good as a quarterback as Eli, but he has those weapons and has shown potential to be. And now Flacco's under a lot of flack. Sorry, I guess no pun intended there. I didn't mean to do that.
It's good.
But thanks. And so he has been and under a lot of criticism. And so it depends. Is he going to step up here? I don't think he is. I think Redskins are going to play them tough. Like I said, they're rolling. They're looking good. And Ravens haven't quite clinched that division yet. I think that division that's usually dominant, the Ravens, Steelers, those two teams maybe not as good as they typically are in seasons past, and I think the Ravens are still gonna win that division, but that's about it. I don't know how far they're gonna go in the playoffs this year. I picked them actually to win the Grey Cup, but
Whoa, hey, I know that the Baltimore Stallions won the Grey Cup. I didn't know the Ravens were going to take part in the Grey Cup. I mean, 101, they're coming for you, Argos. They want the title. I mean, maybe that's what it's going to have to take for Baltimore. I mean, maybe it's going to be, they can't win a Super Bowl, they can win a Grey Cup. But I'm sure Mark Trestman will be very interested in a one-city U.S. expansion.
And I'm sure I won't live that down for a while.
This is on the internet, and God bless him for that just moment right there. But yeah, I see where you could have picked Baltimore to go to the Super Bowl,
but not anymore. Not the way they've been playing as of late. I don't know how they're 9-3, how they've only lost 3 games, because there's been about the last 3 or 4 games they've played, I don't think they had much business winning, but we'll see. I gotta go with the Redskins for this one, Jay.
I like the Redskins as well in this one. On the fact that it is at home, stop. And the fact that it's at home, as Washington's really rallied around the fans, and especially the defense more so than the offense, I think. I mean, London Fletcher's just rallying so much around the fan support, and it's kind of nice to see the Redskins get in some of that. I mean, the Redskins are one of the most historic franchises in the NFL from, the mid-70s, part of the 80s, the late 80s, early 80s and stuff like that, and it's nice to see them finally winning a game, because a lot of people, growing up getting into football, like, oh, Washington Redskins are that team that spends too much money on crappy quarterbacks. So now they're a team that looks like they can, reclaim the glory of old and, take the step. And I think a big one for them is beating Baltimore. And the way in RG3's eyes too, it just seems like he will not lose. Like I think he would rather die than lose a football game. So I'm leaning with Washington here, especially like I said with the lack of Suggs. I mean, I don't know how this defense can be. So Washington it is. But moving to Sunday night, you know, one team that I guess a lot of people have been disappointed with in terms of the Detroit Lions, and they go to Lambeau Field to take on the Packers, who, yeah, they got a win last week, but it wasn't even that impressive. I mean, I'm not too impressed with what Green Bay did last week. So, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. These two teams, division rival, they play each other really well. I think more so, yeah, it's always an exciting matchup too. I mean, last year, even when they had Matt Flynn in the game for the Packers, and they were just, both teams were just putting up points, so that's good. For me, clearly, I'm taking Green Bay. I think Aaron Rodgers is just going to be too much for that Detroit defense. Has been really suffering and lacking and giving up points like you wouldn't believe. So I'm going to go with the Packers here, and I mean, Detroit, I think, if anything, they can play spoiler at the last week of the season. I think that's something they would like to do, but I don't think they have the intestinal fortitude this week to beat the Packers.
I gotta go the other way. I think they're going into Lambeau, and Detroit is going to beat Green Bay this week. As you said, Green Bay's been kind of falling off a bit. Well, maybe not falling off, but leveled out. They haven't been showing what they've showed, you know, a few weeks ago. And I kind of think they need this. If you're a Green Bay fan, well, I mean, you don't want to see your team lose, but your team kind of needs a reality check. And I think the Lions are going to go in there and give them that reality check. In the long run, it'll be good for Green Bay. But I mean, Lions should have, they could have definitely won on Thanksgiving Day. And I think, like I said, rivalry game, I think they're going to be fired up for this one. This is kind of the only game left that they have that actually has meaning to it. So I think they almost treat this as their Super Bowl, and they go out there and they play Green Bay really hard. No matter what, I think it's going to be a good game, but I think Detroit wins it by a field goal in Lambeau.
Well, I think that's an interesting way to look at things. I think the one way Detroit could win this game is if they rush the ball really well. Green Bay this year has been awful against the run. I mean, Adrian Peterson broke up an 82-yard run against them last week.
Bad.
I mean,
granted,
it's Adrian Peterson, who's a freak of nature and not a human being. He's a monster, but 82 yards with a man that just had an ACL surgery? I mean, really? You're giving up 82 yards? Come on, guys. You're better than that. But Detroit doesn't have a halfback, so I think it's going to have to be a lot through the air, and I think the secondary of Green Bay will do enough to beat the Detroit Lions. But speaking of a team that knows a little bit about both those teams in terms of losing to Green Bay and having that miracle victory, I guess, over Detroit, that'd be the Houston Texans. Now, they play on Monday night in a matchup, I think, that, dare I say, has Super Bowl preview written all over it, because I think it has a little bit of Super Bowl preview written all over it. As the Texans, they go to Gillette Stadium to take on the New England Patriots in a matchup I'm actually really looking forward to. I mean, you know, the Texans bounced back in terms of impressive victory. They played the Titans. They did what they're supposed to do. They squashed them like a grape. The Patriots beat another division team against the Dolphins last weekend. I'm really excited for this one. I really think it's going to be what can Houston's defense do against Tom Brady and this explosive offense that he's really unloaded recently. So I'll let you start. Who do you think wins this game?
If New England's completely healthy, I actually go with New England. But, you know, their offensive juggernaut, Gronk, he's out. And he's not going to be playing in this game. And he's been huge for them recently. Now I think if you're Houston, just cover Welker. He's really the only other explosive guy. And New England thrives on being explosive. As long as you don't let New England get a big lead on you, you're probably going to beat them. So I think Houston is going to win this game. They seem pretty healthy. They've been rolling lately. And I think, as you said, they're looking at this as a playoff matchup, and they're going to play them hard. Both teams are going to play hard. And I think Houston's going to make this a statement game for them and say, look out for us because we're coming.
I'm taking the Texans here.
Yeah.
I really think that the Texans are for real. I think they're actually as good of a road team as they are a home team. We don't really get to see them too much against, you know, AFC East teams, but they played the Jets in what you could say, like, hey, it's the Jets, but this was the best game I think the Jets played all year, and they lost that game. They also lost Brian Cushing for the rest of the season that game, but I think they can handle the road atmosphere, and I think offensively what they can do that the Patriots for years have really had trouble with is the run as well, and they have a great running back in Arian Foster. I think he can get going here against the Patriots. I think that's going to really make things opening up for Schaub, and, you know, he's going to hit Andre Johnson or, you know, and Owen Daniels. I really like what they have, and I think Houston's defense is up for the task against the Patriots. I mean, Welker's going to have to play huge. I know the Patriots just brought back Brandon Lloyd to the team. I mean, he stepped up pretty big earlier in the season for them.
I'm not sold on him.
You're not. I think in big game situations he can come through. I don't think this is one of them, though. I think the defense will do enough to stymie a guy that hadn't been in the lineup for a couple weeks. That's a rough transition. The one guy I think New England's really gonna miss is Julian Edelman. I mean, Edelman has been playing fantastic football ever since the crushing of the Colts game. So without him, I don't know how the Patriots can really handle it. It's going to have to be a lot on Welker, but, you know, it's Tom Brady against an exciting, tough defense, and I think that's a great matchup right there. And I think the Texans take this one, move to 12-1, and really, really scare people going into the playoffs. But really, that's about it. We don't want to scare you that we're about to leave you here, because we're about to hit you with our favorite segment. We're about to hit you with quick picks. So, you know, another exciting NFC North matchup to start things off. The Bears, who come off an OT loss to the Seattle Seahawks, taking on the Minnesota Vikings at home.
Percy Harvin isn't back yet. I gotta go with the Bears.
I gotta go with the Bears as well. I think they'll rally around the fact that they lost and they're angry. They don't have Urlacher, but they're angry.
They're angry.
The Eagles and the Buccaneers.
Gotta go with the Bucs, man. Love Tampa Bay this year.
I agree. I mean, can you spare some change for an old Buccaneer? Because I'm going with Tampa Bay over Philly. The Rams going into Buffalo to take on the beloved Bills of mine.
Rams.
I don't know. This one, the Rams aren't too great of a road team, so I may lean with Buffalo. I think they can use the cold weather that St. Louis isn't used to an advantage. An exciting matchup, I really think so. Obviously, important implications for your division. The Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals.
Cincinnati.
Yes, I don't think the Cowboys are going to have too much fun in the jungle of Cincinnati, and I like the Bengals, probably playing the best football as a team of anyone in the NFL. The Kansas City Chiefs and the Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland's been rolling. As much as KC won last week, I think Cleveland's got it this week.
I think Cleveland does as well. It's at home, and I think the victory over the Panthers is a nice story, but I think the clock always strikes 12 for Cinderella. And lastly, your boys and Drew Brees' New Orleans Saints.
I gotta go with my boys. They gotta bounce back. They gots to bounce back. You knows they gots to, but I may lean with the team from New Orleans in this one. I think they have a quarterback that can slice up a defense that's been really struggling, and Drew Brees right there, and the run attack. So how about them Saints? That's who I'm going to take in this one. But that's going to be it for this week's edition of First and 10. We'll be back next week to talk all the excitement of the National Football League and maybe how the Baltimore Ravens will do in the Grey Cup. But that's it for this week. For Matt, I'm out. Peace.